How's everyone doing? Kristian Hernández here with Sports Video Group. I'm with my boss, Ken Kerschbaumer. We're here at the 2024 Summer Olympic Games in Paris, France. Just a stone's throw away if you have a really good arm to get to the IBC, a little bit north, I guess you'd say what, northeast? Northeast of the city, where everything's going down. We're recording about a couple hours away from the opening ceremonies. Ken, we'll go to you first. You've been to a lot of Olympics. Your initial thoughts being here in the host city?
Well, I love Paris, first off, but I'm really excited about the opening ceremonies tonight. I think the problem we're going to have is obviously the weather looks a little dicey, so hopefully it will stay relatively dry. But, talking with NBC about their plans to kind of get people closer to the NBC, the USA athletes, and obviously OBS has a massive production plan. I think it's 1,000 cameras total when you count in like 200. There's a cell phone camera on each boat. So you have 200 cameras on the boats. Then obviously there's the cameras all up and down the river, tons of RF. There won't be any drones because I believe you're not allowed to fly drones in Paris. But it's going to be very exciting. So, we're just kind of stoked. We just spent some time over at the IBC, saw a lot of old friends. Some who, Dave Maas is here as a freelancer. Chip Adams is here as a freelancer. Terry Adams is here as a freelancer. So great to see some old friends from NBC who are still here working with NBC. But it's going to be a great couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it shows the power impact of the show, right? That people still seem to be coming back. And going back over to the Trocadéro and the Seine. So the really cool thing is we talked to Chris Connolly that the boats will be coming down the Seine. They'll be ending at kind of the Trocadéro set. It's really this big, I guess, effort, right, to kick things off. Well, you would agree with me if we're saying that this is the biggest opening ceremony that they've ever done, right?
Yeah, and the cool things that we were saying, talking with Chris yesterday. Obviously, historically, when the opening ceremony, when Team USA comes in, or Team France, or Team Great Britain, you really can only talk about them while they're kind of walking around and getting into position on the field. But here, they're going to be going down the river for an hour, 2 hours potentially. It's a 3-mile course, so let's call it an hour. There's a lot of time to kind of get close to the athletes in a totally different way than we've ever seen before. So very exciting.
And branching out even just outside the opening ceremonies, we'll go deeper to this on sportsvideo.org if you want more in-depth looks. But the venue operations, obviously, that OBS is doing, but NBC has their own stuff. It's different than where we were last time, when I was at least internationally with you at Doha at the World Cup. Everything was centrally located. There are 35 stadiums, but for people that don't go to the Olympics or don't really understand it, that it's more than just outside of Paris. So can you, I guess, talk about the breadth of the things? I know you're going to be speaking to OBS next week, but just talk about the overall expansion of and expansiveness of these games.
Yeah, well, it's 329 events, I believe, right? 11,000 hours, which is 15% more than Tokyo Games. We have the break dancing, which everyone's going to be curious to see how that's going to go. But, I think, talking to Chris, obviously the amazing thing that he said about the World Cup when compared to like other events is this is, tomorrow we're going to have about probably 329 events over 2 weeks. So it's about 20 events a day, all going up in the air at the same time. And these are big events. It's obviously a golf course. Yeah, you have 18 holes, so it's kind of similar in theory. But, the beauty of this is 8,500 people roughly that OBS is hiring. We have the OBS production team that kind of coordinates everything. Then they've hired the best of the best as far as experts on how to produce each of these events. So it's a really United Nations of sports production, because you'll have potentially, I believe, the Chinese helping out with the ping pong, sort of those kind of sports. Obviously, for golf, NBC historically has kind of helped out. I think this year it's going to be ETP. So it's really cool to see how they kind of rely on the experts in each of those sports to really kind of tell the story in the best way possible.
If you're a seasoned vet here, you understand that the IBC is one thing and the media center is another thing. The one that you pointed out to me was that there is some distance in between, and that might help some of the media getting to the heart of the city. Can you at least speak on that in terms of like, yes, things are further away, but it might actually help further operation?
Yeah, it's funny. Historically, the IBC and the media main press center have been kind of next to each other. And here, the main press center is much closer to Paris, probably about 20 minutes roughly from the IBC. So they're a little disconnected, which is great for, it gives it a different edge to the IBC because the IBC doesn't have a lot of the regular still photographers running around and the E&G crews. But they're, like I said, they're close to the action where they have to be to get close to venues. But it's kind of interesting that the energy is different in the IBC because it's purely the people who are focused on creating the great TV content. And there's going to be a lot of, I think there's some 8K that's going to be going on once again, which would be cool to check that out. Obviously, we're talking 1080p HDR and 4K HDR across the board. So it's going to be really a big technical lift. But, really excited. And the cool thing is that it's a smaller IBC. It's a smaller footprint, but they're doing more because more people are working remotely. and they're just more efficient with the way they go about using the cloud and some of the other IP technologies.
Last thing before we go, but today's only day 2. All the majorities are mostly quiet because everyone's down at the Seine getting prepared for the opening ceremonies. IBS is a little, the IBC is a little quiet, kind of preparing for tonight and the rest of the games. But we obviously know what we're covering, but for those watching at home, what should they expect over the next week that while I'm here and our European team will be joining you in your efforts before the games close on the 11th?
Yeah, well, I always like to say, because you'll see the Twitter feeds blow up when there's kind of like, let's say, coverage mistakes or what have you. NBC does not produce everything, right? So NBC is not responsible for everything. So, I think that it's going to be a great effort overall. But I'm just, what I'm looking forward to is obviously, I hope that the French get excited. We obviously had the issue today with the trains, which is never fun. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but I know everybody's annoyed. But I'm just looking forward to kind of Paris, which is a beautiful, gorgeous city, putting forth a really beautiful effort. It looks like the weather next week is going to be, a little toasty, but it's going to be sunny and going to be a lot of fun. So, and how about you? As your first Olympics, what are you looking forward to?
I mean, there's no better city to be in besides Paris, right? For this one, 100 years since the last one? 1924 was the last Olympics held here. I've already made musings and observations with you where it seems like, networks seem to work, at least domestically, networks seem to work together to forward the Olympics effort as a whole and kind of make sure that NBC's coverage is cool and helping other networks, even speaking to the Europeans a little bit so far. But I mean, for the studio shows, I said it before, it's like there is at least 100, 200 people just for the studio shows. So this is a massive effort, and you can only experience it, like I said at the World Cup, you can only experience it when you're here. So this is awesome.
And it's been, it's funny because we were talking with the NBC team. Like the Today Show, it's been 2016 was the last time it was in a Eastern time zone in Rio, right? Then it was in Pyeongchang in Korea, and then Tokyo in China. So when the Today Show was coming on air in the morning, they were coming on at about 8 o'clock at night. So people were tuning in. It was dark. So this is the first time where the Today Show is actually going to come on air. Domestically, it'll be at 7 o'clock in the morning, but here they'll be on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're going to be, up and alert. I mean, think that a lot of fans are going to come out to see them because, again, you're not having to roll out at 5 o'clock in the morning to go see the Today Show. So, but it's going to be an interesting dynamic because that means their day goes from around 1 o'clock in the afternoon until around, and then prime time goes on air around 2 or 3 a.m. So it's a very, God bless the NBC team and the CBC team. They're going to be the same boat in Canada. Obviously, everybody on that side of the world. It's going to be late nights, but hopefully they get to sleep in for a couple hours in the morning and really hit it all again. But it's going to be a great couple of weeks.
And one more thing, the first, I guess, true post-COVID Olympics, because the last Summer Olympics you were there in Tokyo and it delayed in 2021. I'll give you the last comment, but I mean, it just seems like you said, there's more people here, there's more access. Can you compare it real quick to what you experienced? And I guess how does that feed to the excitement that there's going to be fans, there's going to be things that are open. It's going to be a good, awesome madhouse in a sense.
Oh yeah, no, I think you're going to see. I mean, the Rio Olympics again going on. That's the last time you can compare with. But Rio, Brazil is not easy to get to, right? So I think you're going to have, great crowds. I think you have great enthusiasm. Obviously, Europeans can all easily come to Paris. That's the beauty of this continent. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see how the fans come out in the mix. It's not going to be just a lot of French fans will no doubt be there, but I think you'll see the Belgians right off the street. Obviously Spain and Italy and Germany and Austria and the UK. It's a quick train right away, so it's going to be really kind of a lot of fun.
All right, Ken. Well, we have a lot to do this upcoming week. Appreciate the nice impromptu check-in. Thanks for the time, Ken.
You got it.
Please stay tuned to sportsvideo.org for all the reports here live from Paris.